Captain Ji-ho Kim pressed his face against the cold metal of the observation window. Below him, the planet Elysium 7 spun slowly like a green and blue jewel. Crystal towers rose from forests that glowed with soft light, rivers of silver water wound between hills, covered in flowers that seemed to shine from within. "I have never seen anything so beautiful," whispered Minji Park. She stood beside him, her breath making small clouds on the glass. As the ship's main scientist, she had studied many worlds, but none like this one. The other crew members crowded around the windows. Woo-Sung Lee, their security officer, checked his scanner again. Still no weapons anywhere on the planet. No armies, no defenses, nothing that could hurt us. "Maybe they do not need weapons," said Hannah Choi. She was in charge of planning their new colony. Maybe they are truly peaceful. 3 days ago, the beings who lived on this world had contacted their ship. The humans called them ethereals because they looked like living light. The aliens spoke without moving their mouths. Their voices appeared directly inside human minds, soft and musical. The message had been simple: "Welcome, travelers from distant stars. Come to our sacred haven. Here you will find the peace your souls have always sought." Now their ship, the New Dawn, hung in orbit above this paradise world. Gi-ho had been a starship captain for 15 years. He had seen dead rocks, poisonous swamps, and worlds covered in ice. Never had he found a planet that looked so perfect for human life. "Captain," called Jinsu Lim from the communication station. "The ethereals are sending another message." The voice filled his mind again, gentle as a summer breeze. "Honored guests, your journey through the cold darkness of space is over. Below waits eternal spring, clear water, and soil rich enough to grow any food you desire. Bring your people down to us. Let them rest." Through the ship's speakers, Ji-ho addressed his crew of 300 colonists. "Attention, everyone. Prepare for landing. They're going down to the surface in groups of 50, scientists and security teams first." Dr. Minho Song, their geology expert, was already packing his equipment. "The mineral scans show everything we could want. Rare metals, clean water, perfect soil. It is like this planet was made for us." "Maybe it was," Minji said quietly. The first shuttle bay opened with a soft hiss. Ji-ho watched as 50 humans climbed into the transport ship. Their faces showed excitement and hope. These people had traveled for 2 years through space, sleeping in tiny rooms, eating processed food, breathing recycled air. The promise of a real world with fresh air and open sky made them smile. Yuna, Ko. Their historian held an old book in her hands. "Way in human stories, we always dreamed of finding a world like this. A place where we could start over, leave our problems behind. What if it is too good to be true?" Woo-Sung asked. His job was to worry about danger. But even he seemed hopeful. The shuttle launched from the ship and flew toward the crystal cities below. Through the window, Ji-ho watched it grow smaller, until it disappeared into the planet's atmosphere. 20 minutes later, Jinsu received the first report from the surface. "Landing successful. The air is perfect for breathing. Temperature is warm but comfortable. The ethereals are here to greet us. They... ... They are amazing, Captain, like angels made of light." More shuttles launched, group after group of humans descended to the paradise below. Each report was the same: perfect weather, clean air, friendly aliens who wanted nothing but to help. But something worried Ji-ho during all their scans of the planet. They had found no animals. The forests were full of beautiful plants, but no birds flew between the trees. No insects buzzed among the flowers. No fish swam in those silver rivers. "Minji," he said, "is it normal for a planet to have plants but no animals?" She frowned, looking at her data again. "No, it is very strange. Plants and animals usually grow together. Plants make oxygen. Animals make carbon dioxide. They need each other." "Maybe the animals are just hiding," Hannah suggested. "Maybe they are afraid of us." By the end of the day, 200 humans had landed on Elysium 7. Their reports continued to be wonderful. The ethereals had shown them places to build homes, The soil was so rich that seeds planted in the morning had tiny green shoots by evening. That night, Jiho stood alone in his cabin, looking down at the glowing world below. Everything seemed perfect, too perfect. In his experience, the universe did not give gifts without asking for something in return. He touched the communication button. Surface teams, this is Captain Kim. Report status. The answer came back immediately, full of joy. All fine up here, Captain. The ethereals are teaching us about their cities. They say tomorrow they will show us the deeper parts of their world, the sacred places where true peace can be found. Jiho felt a chill run down his back. Something in those words did not sound right. But when he looked at the beautiful planet below, he pushed his worry away. After all, it looked like heaven. 3 months had passed since the humans first landed on Elysium 7. The colony was growing well. Houses made of crystal and metal rose from the perfect soil. Gardens filled with earth vegetables grew faster than anyone had ever seen. The colonists were happy. But Dr. Minho's song was not happy. He was supposed to find minerals for the colony. But his drilling equipment kept hitting something hard beneath the ground. Every time he tried to dig deep, his machines would stop, with a loud grinding sound. "There is something down there," he told his assistant, Kung Pyo, as they worked near the edge of New Seoul Colony. Something big. Kung Pyo wiped sweat from his face. The work was hard, but the weather was always perfect. Never too hot, never too cold. So maybe it is just rocks, Doctor. Minho shook his head. "No, look at this." Out. He held up a piece of white material that his drill had brought up. It was smooth and curved, about the size of his hand. "This is not rock. This is bone. Old bone." That evening, Minho took the bone to Dr. Minji Park. She studied it under her microscope for a long time. When she looked up, her face was pale. "Where did you find this?" "Under the ground, about 10 meters down. There are more pieces. Many more." Minji set down her microscope. This bone is not from any animal we know. It is from something that walked on 2 legs like us, something intelligent. The next day, Captain Jiho Kim gave permission for a full dig. Minho and his team worked carefully, brushing dirt away from the buried objects. What they found made everyone stopped talking. Bones. Thousands and thousands of bones. They were arranged in neat rows, like a giant cemetery. But these were not human bones. They were from creatures the humans had never seen. Unico, the historian, worked beside the diggers. She found pieces of metal and stone that looked like tools. "These people had technology," she said, holding up a broken device. "They built things. They were smart people." Asked Wu Sungli, "What people?" "The ones who lived here before the ethereals made it paradise," Yuna said quietly. The dig continued for days. They found more bone layers underneath the first ones. Each layer was different. Different sized bones, different tools, different art carved into stone tablets. "How many?" Captain Kim asked when he visited the dig site. "So far, we have found remains from at least 20 different species," Mingi reported. "All intelligent, all buried in the same way, in neat rows." Jinsu, Lim, their diplomat, decided to ask the ethereals about the bones. He found them in their crystal city, glowing softly in the eternal twilight. "Honored ethereals," he said, "we have found bones under the ground, old bones from many different people. Can you tell us about them?" The lead ethereal's light grew brighter. When it spoke, its voice in Jinsu's mind was still musical, but somehow different. "Ah, you have found the imperfect ones." "Imperfect ones?" "They lived here before us. They were troubled creatures. They fought with each other. They hurt the world with their violence. They made noise where there should be silence, created ugliness where there should be beauty." Jinsu felt cold. "Despite the warm air, what happened to them? We helped them find peace. We showed them how to let go of their anger, their fear, their selfish desires. We taught them to be calm, but they are all dead." "No, dear friend. They are not dead. They are perfected. They have become one with the sacred soil of our world. Now they help the beautiful plants grow." That night, the human leaders met in secret. Spread out maps, showing all the dig sites. Red marks covered the paper. "We have found burial sites everywhere," Minho reported. "Under every crystal city, under every forest, under every field where we are growing food." "How many species?" Kim asked. "We stopped counting at 40, Minji said. "There might be more." Much more. Hannah Choi, who had been planning to bring more humans from Earth, spoke in a whisper. "They killed them all. Every intelligent species that ever lived on this planet." "Not killed," Yuna corrected. "The ethereals do not think they killed anyone. They think they saved them, made them perfect." Wusong Li was checking his weapons. "We need to get back to the ship now." "Wait," said Jinsu. "Maybe we can talk to them, make them understand that we want to keep our imperfections." "And if they say no?" Wusong asked. The room fell silent. Outside, the crystal cities glowed with their beautiful light. The perfect. Flowers filled the air with sweet smells. Ethereals moved through their paradise like angels. But under the ground, 40 species of intelligent beings lay buried in neat rows. All of them had once looked at this world and thought it was heaven. All of them had been wrong. Captain Kim stood up. "Try to contact the ship. We may need to leave quickly." Jinsu touched his communication device. Static filled the air. "I cannot reach them, Captain. Something is blocking our signal." Through the window, they could see ethereals floating closer. To the human colony, their light seemed brighter than usual, more focused. "I think," Minji said quietly, "they have decided it is time to make us perfect too." The morning started like any other in New Seoul Colony. Ayan Park was checking the vegetable gardens when he saw them coming. Ethereals floated down from the crystal cities like falling stars, but this time they moved with purpose. Everyone stayed calm. Taeyun called to the other farmers. "They are probably just visiting." The ethereals spread out across the colony. Their light was different today, brighter, more focused. They began to sing, but not with voices. The song came from inside the humans' minds. Taeyun felt the music wash over him. It was beautiful, so peaceful. All his worries seemed silly now. Why had he ever been angry about anything? Why had he ever felt sad or afraid? The song told him that these feelings were wrong. They were ugly things that did not belong in paradise. "Yes," he whispered, smiling. "I understand now." One by one, the colonists stopped what they were doing. They stood still, listening to the mental song. Their faces became empty of worry, empty of fear, empty of everything except calm happiness. Mrs. Soyeon-im was hanging laundry when the song reached her. She dropped the wet clothes and turned toward the nearest ethereal. "I am ready to be perfect," she said in a flat, emotionless voice. The children playing in the gardens stopped running. They sat down in neat rows, their hands folded, staring at nothing with empty smiles. By noon, New Seoul was silent, except for the ethereal's mental song. The humans moved like sleepwalkers. They worked in the gardens, but they did not talk. They ate their meals, but they did not taste the food. Were alive, but they were not human anymore. Captain Kim watched from his hidden position in the forest. He had been visiting the dig site when the harmonization began. Now he crouched behind the crystal formations with Dr. Song and 5 other survivors. "We have to help them," whispered Yeonji Kim, the captain's communications officer.
Yes.
She was crying as she watched her friends walk around like robots. "How?" asked Dr. Song. "We do not even know what they did to them." Wusong Li was studying the colony through binoculars. "They are not hurt. Their bodies are fine, but their minds. Look at their eyes. There is nothing there." The survivors watched in horror as their friends and family continued their daily tasks with mechanical precision, tended the gardens perfectly. They cleaned their houses without being asked. They smiled constantly, but they never laughed, never cried. They never showed any real emotion at all. This is what happened to the other species, Dr. Song realized. The ethereals did not kill them with weapons. They killed their spirits, made them empty. That evening, the ethereals came looking for the survivors. Their lights swept through the forest like searchlights. Captain Kim led his small group deeper into the dig site, down into the tunnels they had made while searching for bones. "They cannot find us here," he whispered. The old bones seemed to block their mental powers. They crawled through narrow spaces filled with the remains of ancient civilizations. Skulls stared at them from the walls. Broken tools scattered the ground. This was all that remained of 40 intelligent species. "Look at these weapons," Yanji said, picking up a metal rod carved with beautiful designs. "They are not made for fighting. They're ceremonial, decorative." Wusong examined more artifacts. None of these species were warriors. When the ethereals came to make them perfect, they just gave up. Or maybe they tried to fight but did not know how. Dr. Song suggested above them they could hear the ethereals calling. Not with voices, but with their mental song. "Come out, imperfect ones. Why do you hide from peace? We only want to help you find harmony." Captain Kim felt the song trying to enter his mind. It was seductive. It promised an end to all worry, all pain, all difficult choices. For a moment, he wanted to climb out of the tunnels and walk into that beautiful light. But then he looked at the bones around him. 40 species had listened to that same song. 40 species had chosen peace over freedom. And now they were all dead, buried under the paradise they had been promised. "No," he said firmly, "we are different." The mental song grew stronger. "You suffer needlessly. Your anger hurts you. Your fear makes you weak. Let us take these burdens away." "Our anger keeps us alive," Kim replied, though he was not sure if the ethereals could hear his thoughts. "Our fear warns us of danger. These are not burdens. They are gifts." Dr. Song found cave paintings on the tunnel walls. Ancient artwork, showing the same story over and over. Happy creatures living in peace. Then the ethereals arriving. Then empty-faced beings walking in neat rows. Then bones in the ground. "Every species thought they were special," he said. "Every species thought they could find a way to keep their freedom and have paradise too. But they all made the same mistake." "What? Mistake?" Yunji asked. "They tried to negotiate with the ethereals. They tried to find a compromise. They never considered that some things are worth fighting for, even if the fight means giving up paradise." Outside, the mental song continued. But down in the tunnels, surrounded by the bones of the defeated, the last free humans began to plan their war. They would not be the 41st species to choose peace over freedom. They would be the first to choose to fight. The first crystal spire fell at dawn. Sung Men-o and his demolition team had worked all night, placing explosives around the base of the towering structure. When it crashed down, sound echoed across the entire planet like thunder. For the first time in thousands of years, the ethereals felt something they had never experienced before. Fear. The mental scream that came from the destroyed spire made every human on the planet stop what they were doing. Even the harmonized colonists in New Seoul looked up with confusion in their empty eyes. "Captain." Kim watched from his hiding place in the bone tunnels. "Good work, Sungmin. Now they know we are not going quietly." Dr. Song had been busy in his makeshift laboratory deep underground among the ancient remains. He had discovered something amazing in the bone layers. Genetic material. DNA from all the extinct species, preserved in the planet's soil. "The ethereals made a mistake," he told Kim excitedly. "They buried the bodies, but they did not destroy them completely. Life finds a way to survive, even here." Using equipment salvaged from their colony, Dr. Song began to wake up the sleeping genetics. In glass containers, he grew cells from creatures that had been dead for centuries. Most failed, but some began to multiply and change. "What are you making?" asked Yoonji Kim, watching the strange shapes growing in the containers. "Chaos," Dr. Song replied with a grim smile. "The one thing the ethereals cannot control." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Sunhan Bei was training the human survivors to fight. But they had no modern weapons. The ethereals had made sure of that when they blocked communications with the ship in orbit. "We use what we have," Sung-hoon said, holding up a bone club made from an ancient creature's leg. "These bones are from warriors of 40 different species. Maybe some of their fighting spirit is still in them." The human fighters looked strange carrying weapons made from alien skeletons. But the bones were strong and they felt right in human hands. As if the dead were helping the living fight back, Narration set up a mobile command center that moved through the tunnel system every few hours. The ethereals kept trying to find the human resistance, but the ancient bones seemed to block their mental powers. They're getting frustrated, Nari reported to Captain Kim. Their harmonization teams are working overtime, but they cannot find us. Frustration leads to mistakes. The real breakthrough came when Dr. Song released his first batch of revived genetics into the perfect forests. Tiny creatures, no bigger than insects, but they carried the DNA of extinct predators. Within hours, they began to multiply and grow. Ethereal's perfect plants started to wither. The harmonized soil became chaotic again. Animals that had been extinct for thousands of years began to crawl out of the ground, hungry and angry. Impossible. The ethereal voices echoed in every human mind. We made this world perfect. How can imperfection return? Because Kim replied, knowing they could hear his thoughts, perfection is not natural. Life is messy. Life is wild. Life fights back. The crystal cities began to crack as ancient root systems suddenly revived, pushed up through their foundations. The silver rivers turned muddy as prehistoric fish swam in them again. The glowing flowers dimmed as normal. Chaotic plant life competed with them for space. Lieutenant Bay led his bone-armed fighters in hit-and-run attacks against ethereal patrol groups. He would strike from the tunnels, using the ancient dead as both weapons and shields, then disappear back underground before the aliens could respond. We are ghosts, Bay told his fighters. We are the voices of every species they tried to silence. The ethereals had never faced real resistance before. For thousands of years, every intelligent species had eventually chosen their offer of peace. But humans were different. When offered paradise, they chose to fight for the right to make their own imperfect world. Your violence disturbs the harmony, the ethereals broadcast to all human minds. Stop this chaos. Accept our gift of peace. Peace. Captain Kim laughed as he watched a pack of revived predators chase ethereal scouts through a crystal garden. You call genocide peace? You call slavery harmony? You call it what it is? Murder? The war escalated quickly. Dr. Song's genetic bombs were exploding across the planet, releasing waves of chaotic life. The perfect weather began to change. Storms formed as the planet's natural systems rebalanced themselves. Lightning struck the crystal spires. Some began to fall on their own. Narration coordinated attacks from 12 different tunnel networks. Her teams would emerge, strike at ethereal installations, then vanish back into the bone caves. The aliens, who had lived in perfect order for millennia, could not adapt to human unpredictability. They are learning to be afraid, reported Yoonji Kim from her monitoring station. Their mental communications are full of confusion. They do not understand how we can choose suffering over peace. Because, said Captain Kim, watching through a tunnel opening as the paradise above burned and writhed with renewed life, we understand something they never learned. Freedom is not free. Someone has to fight for it. The ethereal's perfect world was becoming a battlefield. For the first time in their long history, they were losing. The dead were rising. The living were fighting. Paradise was dying. The central sanctuary glowed like a star at the heart of the crystal city. Captain Kim walked through its shattered doors, his boots crunching on broken glass. Around him, the paradise world burned with chaotic life. Trees that had been perfect now grew wild and twisted. Rivers ran muddy with sediment. The air smelled of smoke and earth instead of sweet flowers. Behind him, the bones of 40 extinct species rattled in his pack. He had carried them here as weapons, but now they felt more like witnesses. They would see justice done. The ethereal prime waited in the center of the sanctuary. It was larger than the others, its light so bright it hurt to look at directly. But that light was flickering now, uncertain for the first time in thousands of years. You have destroyed everything beautiful, the prime said, its mental voice no longer musical. Now it sounded afraid. Why do you choose ugliness over perfection? Kim set down his pack of bones. Each skull seemed to stare at the ethereal with empty eye sockets. Because beauty without choice is not beauty. It is control. We offered you peace. We offered you happiness without pain. life without suffering, and you chose violence instead. We chose freedom instead. Kim pulled out a bone club carved from an ancient warrior's femur. Every species you buried here faced the same choice. Peace or freedom. They all chose peace. We chose differently. The ethereal's light pulsed with confusion. But why? Choose. To suffer when you could have eternal bliss? Kim looked around the sanctuary. The walls were covered with murals showing the 40 extinct species in their final moments. All of them looked peaceful. All of them looked empty, because paradise, without the choice to reject it, is not paradise. It is a beautiful prison. The Prime's form began to expand, filling the room with blinding light. Then you will die like all the others. But this time, we will not bury your bones. We'll scatter them to the wind so that no trace of your chaos remains. Kim raised the bone club. You can try. The battle was brief, but fierce. The ethereal Prime had power beyond human understanding, but it had never learned to fight. For thousands of years, it had only needed to sing its mental song and watch species surrender. Kim had spent months learning to fight with desperate fury, the Bone Club, strengthened by alien minerals from the planet's core, shattered the Prime's light form again and again. Each time the ethereal reformed, Kim struck again. The bones of the ancient dead seemed to guide his hands, as if 40 species were finally getting their revenge. Impossible, the Prime gasped as its light began to fade. How can imperfection defeat perfection? Because, Kim said, standing over the dying alien, perfection cannot adapt, perfection cannot learn, perfection cannot grow. The Primes. Death screams shattered crystal formations across the entire planet. Every remaining ethereal felt it, and many fled immediately to distant star systems. They carried with them a warning about the species that had chosen war over peace, chaos over order. In the days that followed, the work of restoration began. Dr. Song and his team worked around the clock to revive more extinct species. The planet's genetic memory was vast. Every day brought new forms of life crawling out of the ancient soil. Dokyum Lee, an engineer who had survived the harmonization by hiding in the bone caves, led teams to convert ethereal technology for human use. The crystal cities became laboratories and workshops where humans learned to blend alien science with their own stubborn ingenuity. The harmonized colonists slowly began to wake up. It took weeks for their personalities to return, but gradually they remembered how to feel anger, sadness, joy, and love. Many cried when they realized what they had lost. But they were alive, and they were human again. Soy and Im led the ecological restoration efforts. She worked with Dr. Song to carefully balance the return of chaotic life with the needs of human colonization. The planet would never be the perfect paradise the ethereals had made it, but it would be alive in a way it had not been for millennia. She said to Captain Kim one evening as they watched the sunset. The sky was no longer the perfect blue of ethereal paradise. Now it showed natural colors, orange, purple, and red. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, promising real weather instead of artificial calm. In the restored forests, creatures that had been extinct for thousands of years hunted and played and fought for survival. Birds sang imperfect songs. Insects buzzed with chaotic energy. Fish swam in muddy rivers that twisted where they wanted to go instead of flowing in perfect straight lines. It is not pretty, Kim admitted. No, Soyen agreed. But it is real. Years later, human colonies spread across former ethereal space. They found other perfect worlds, other buried bone fields, other stories of species that had chosen peace over freedom. But now those worlds had a choice. Ambassador Giwan Seo, formerly a tunnel fighter in the Resistance, delivered the same message at every first contact. She would stand before alien councils and speak words that had become famous. Across the galaxy, the ethereals offered our people paradise. Called it heaven, we called it a battlefield. We were one. Not because we were stronger, but because we understood that some things are worth fighting for. The right to be imperfect, the right to choose, the right to be free. The message spread from world to world, species to species. trap, but there was another way. Freedom was messy, dangerous, and imperfect. But it was theirs.